Well, Theo Merz is staying on top of this story for us from Moscow. Theo, you were listening to what President Putin had to say. What else was there?
Well, there were no really major announcements, but there was an amount of saber rattling towards the West. He touched on these deterioration in the ties between Moscow and the West at the moment. He laid the blame for that squarely on Europe, squarely on the United States. He said that Russia was being provoked and that any further actions would lead to a swift and severe response. He said anyone acting against Russia would regret those actions like they had not regretted anything for a long time. And he went on to talk about increased Russian military spending and the way that Russia is updating its nuclear arsenal. So certainly not a conciliatory talk, but most of the focus there, as you say in your report, was on domestic issues like coronavirus, on the economy, and on getting Russia back on track after what has been a hard year for the country and for the rest of the world.
Now, Theo, of course, Putin's speech came as protests are gearing up around the country to back Putin's biggest critic, Alexei Navalny. Tell us a bit more about any effect that those protests might have had on what Putin was saying today.
Well, they had very little effect on what he was saying. He didn't mention Navalny. He didn't mention the protests. There was no expectation that he would do. But even as he was speaking, those demonstrations were getting underway in the far east of Russia, which is several hours ahead of Moscow. Arrests already started. Arrests actually in Moscow already starting of his supporters. Warnings to other members of his team not to turn out to the rallies, warnings to some journalists. The square next to the Kremlin, where this rally is supposed to happen in just a few hours, has already been shut down by police, and it seems very unlikely that people will actually be able to gather there. But tens of thousands have said they are planning to turn out, so it will be very interesting to see what actually happens in Moscow this evening.
Theo, thank you for that. Theo Merz there reporting for us from Moscow.